Welcome to the Baseball Card Exchange podcast. My name is Phil Endris. I'm glad that you joined us today. I'm here with the owner of Baseball Card Exchange, Steve Hart, and we're hoping to answer some of the most frequently asked questions that we hear at Baseball Card Exchange. Steve, it's good to have you. Question that I get all the time is people know that I work for you. Baseball Card Exchange, work for you, and my primary job is to go around and to buy collections.
Right, yep.
So I filled a lot of phone calls, I talked to a lot of people, answer emails, see people at shows, and then usually end up at their house making deals. And of course, it could be a lot of other places besides a house. It could be a hotel, it could be a parking lot, it could be, all kinds of different situations. And over the years, I've had some pretty unique stories to tell about my journeys.
Yep.
And I know you have as well.
Yep. There was about a decade I did the road myself. Yeah. So I've seen it all also.
So in lieu of that, I think the viewers would be very interested in hearing what are some of your most memorable stories in relation to buying collections.
One of my friends, Reed, who worked for me for about a decade.
Yes.
Me and him got a call from somebody in Westchester County, New York. And of course, that's a pretty well-to-do, nice area of the state. And when we got there, the house was pretty much on its last leg, with nice houses around it. There was holes in the ceiling where you could see light, holes in the floor that you had to avoid.
Wow. And
all the unopened material was in the basement.
Okay.
When we got down there, me and Reed decided it was best if we went and bought those masks like people wore during World War II for, with the goggles and the big can down below it, because the basement had black mold everywhere.
Oh.
And going back to what I said about O-Pee-Chee and Endris and stuff, we threw away several cases valued $10,000, $20,000, $30,000.
Wow.
That were completely ruined by mildew and gum. But that was miserable because we went on a day where it was 95 with a mask around your head in a basement with no air conditioning. So that was one I could remember. Yep.
So did it take you one day?
Yes, one full day.
One full day, and you got it all done. I remember a buy that I believe Reed made the deal. You and Reed made the deal, but I was there as well.
Okay.
It was in New York, and hundreds of cases. I think we filled up two 26-footers, and all of the cases were downstairs.
Yes, we carried them all up. Again, it was another hot day, and we filled up two 24-footers, and when we started, it was pouring, so that didn't help either. But and the truck leaked.
So we're Midwest guys, and Midwest guys, I don't know if you grew up with a basement in your house, but I grew up with a basement in my house, and, the basement stairwell was at least 36 inches wide. On the East Coast, you rarely see a basement that has a 36-inch stairwell.
Nor a good width on the stairs.
Right.
And steep.
Exactly.
And when you got to the top of the stairs, the door barely opened before it hit something else.
Right. And so, taking up those, I think there were a couple hundred cases at least.
Probably several hundred. Several hundred monster boxes of commons.
That's right.
Yep.
So taking those up the stairwell was one of the most daunting jobs I'd done in a while because you couldn't go up. You had to go up at a side because your shoulders were actually too wide to get up the stairway.
And of course, only one person at a time could get from the basement to the front door.
Right.
So
your and Reed's buy in Westchester had some pretty serious mold. What is this? Is there another unique story that you have of maybe where you did a deal, or how much something was, or the biggest deal that you've ever done in person? Anything like that?
One time, me and my longtime employee Rick were at a card show in Philadelphia, and we got a lead for a town several miles away, and we were supposed to meet the gentleman that evening at his house, and he gave us directions, and me and Rick were driving on the expressway, and we got off on the exit, and Rick said, "We're not getting out of the car."
Okay.
This is not a place for us to be. We're not getting out of the car. And the gentleman wanted to come have us drive down the back alley to his house.
Okay.
To meet him in the back garage. Things started to look a little better, and we went ahead and risked it. And it actually turned out pretty good.
Okay.
But that was an instance where we almost just called and said we can't make it. something happened to the vehicle, we're not coming.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I get a lot of people that ask me, do you feel safe traveling with, some money? And do you feel, have you ever felt unsafe at a certain place? And there's certainly been some times where I thought, I don't know about this place.
Yeah, I mean, usually Reed and yourself, we do a good job of investigating where we're going, the person we're buying it from, the home they live in, background checks. And usually we get a good feel that, where we're going is going to be relatively safe and not an issue.
Right, and that's a good point that you made. We have...
or meeting at a different location.
Yeah.
I've met in police station parking lots.
Okay.
Where the customer wanted to do that. Maybe not knowing who I was. So, and of course, those situations really I like a lot. So.
Yeah. So, and that's a good point that you brought up, trying to figure out whether or not someone is honest or whether or not someone is being truthful. Or, a lot of times when people call today, it's very hard to get sort of a grip on what they have.
Correct.
This is what I hear a lot when I get phone calls. Hey, I have a huge collection. I have a mammoth collection. I have a gigantic collection. And what a huge collection might be to you may not be a huge collection in reality, or a gigantic collection, etc. So, many phone calls are like, I have a huge collection. I say, well, what's huge? And they say, well, about 7,000 cards.
Yes. Or it's old cards.
Yes.
When old to them was late 80s.
Yeah. So, they'll say they have vintage cards. And I say, well, what year are those vintage cards? 88, 89, 90. Well, those things are 35 years old.
Oh, yeah.
So I understand what they're talking about, but in the grand scheme of things, those aren't considered vintage in the card market.
I remember one situation where a guy, this was back when we only used fax machines, faxed me a list of his stuff from the 50s that he had as a childhood. And he had several Clemente rookies, several Aaron rookies, several Koufax rookies, Banks rookies, 52 highs and everything. And we kind of got close, a ballpark on a price, and I flew down to Houston. And I got in late at night and got to my hotel. And when I checked in, the girl said, well, Mr. Hart, there's a message here for you at the front desk. I said, oh, yeah, what's that? She's like, Steve, sorry, I sold the collection an hour ago. I guess those are the tough breaks, huh?
So he didn't call you. He didn't let you know. No. Oh, my goodness.
Yep. What came good about it was I got to see the Astrodome before they tore it down. And asked for the best ticket available, and I was in seat 1A right by George Bush.
Oh, wow.
So that was the only time I got to go to the Astrodome, and luckily the last.
Well, there you go. Yep. Yeah. Something like that similarly happened to me. It was during COVID, and I had gotten a call. A guy had, if I can remember right, a bunch of 2003, 2004 Topps Chrome LeBron James cards.
Okay.
So he said he had the black refractor, the regular refractor, and a bunch of the base cards and a bunch of other black refractors from that set. Well, at those times, the prices were silly for a black refractor.
Right. Yep. That was during the peak of COVID.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember all the details of what he said he had, but everything, just the few cards that he said that he did have, I knew it was $60,000, $70,000.
It's worth making the trip just from what he said he had.
Just minimum. Mm-hmm. And so he calls me, and I said, well, I will be down there. I'm at a show right now, but I'll be down there next week. Mm-hmm. I'm at the house, and I'm getting ready to leave. And I had been traveling just nonstop at that point. So not too excited to do another trip, but you got to go for this one. Mm-hmm. So I get in the car, and I'm headed to, it was Missouri. I was headed to Missouri, and so then I send a text, just a text about 8 o'clock at night. Hey, just letting you know I'm on my way. I'll see you tomorrow at X time. And he texts back and says, I hope you're not far. I sold the cards, and I got $30,000 for them to a guy local. Can you believe that? ? And I was going to text back and say, well, you had at least $60,000 in the few cards, but I just said, well, okay, I understand. And I think I was 2 hours into my trip, so I had to turn around and come back. The good thing is I had a pounding headache when I left. Mm-hmm. When I got back to the house the next morning, I took a COVID test, and
positive.
I was positive for COVID, so that wouldn't have been a good thing.
Those things happen over time. You're always going to run into them.
Absolutely. Any memorable deals that come in through the store where maybe you didn't go there, or maybe just the way it was presented, or the way that you've done the deal? Is there any memorable deals that just sort of...
Well, in a previous podcast, we talked about the gentleman who came in with the autographed single-signed Ruth balls and some 30s Yankees championship balls. I would say he was probably in his 60s, maybe early 70s, and it took a long time to consummate a price and a deal. It took all day at the store. He wasn't sure about much, but he had spoken to other people, so he had a general idea, and we finally came to a price. I think one of my employees at the time was just tired of listening to us go back and forth, and he blurted out a number, and the guy's like, "I'll take it." And so I went down the road to the bank and luckily I was in good with the bankers, and they knew who I was, so I was able to withdraw a large amount of cash at any given moment. I got back to the store, and I gave him quite a large stack of $100 bills, several inches.
Right.
And I made a comment when he was leaving, and I said, "Now, don't be taking that to the bar right now, because, that wouldn't be a good idea." And he looks at me and points to his Grateful Dead hat and says, "I'm not an alcoholic, but if you know what I mean." And I'm thinking, this 67-year-old guy's dropping acid with the money I gave him for his Ruth balls. So that was a good one.
That's crazy. So how did you know at that time, how long ago was that?
That was early 2000s.
Early 2000s. How did you know the autographs were real? Were they certified already?
No. And that was back when I don't know if there was much certification.
Okay.
He had a good story, which of course really means nothing. It comes down to the item itself.
Right.
But the ball, the autographs, I was 100% confident that what I was getting was real.
Good.
Of course, it was just my best opinion, but I was very confident.
Yep. That's a very interesting story. I didn't even know that one. Well, I think that's all for today. I hope that interest our viewers a little bit about some of the interesting stories that we have while we're on the road and in the process of buying trips.